Still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. This morning, our first story, we turn our attention to a major geopolitical development that has sent literal shockwaves through South Africa. US President Donald Trump has announced that he will halt all future aid to South Africa, and this is following the signing of the Expropriation Act by President Cyril Ramaphosa. This decision directly impacts or will directly impact critical health programs and most importantly and critically, the ones that are supporting HIV and TB services. We know that HIV has become one of, a pandemic literally in South Africa. We have one of the highest numbers of HIV and AIDS patients in the country. And one of the success stories is the fact that we have one of the biggest ARV rollout programs in the world, and this was mainly part because of US aid PEPFAR programs that have helped us on that level. And I know of one of the organizations that have already closed due to this decision. It's the Ivan Tom Center for Health out in Cape Town. And I know we'll be talking to them in the not so distant future about the impact that this decision has had, because most of the time when we speak about these things, they almost seem so high level that we forget that there are people on the ground which are affected by them. So Trump's decision, most importantly to note, follows lobbying efforts by AfriForum, a South African civil rights organization, which has long opposed land expropriation without compensation. The group previously engaged with Trump's administration back in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, and recently urged him to impose sanctions on ANC leaders over the law. However, this move has sparked widespread criticism, with many arguing that it invites foreign interference in South Africa's democratic processes and risks harming ordinary citizens rather than just the government. Now, joining me to discuss this is Ernst van Zyl. He's the head of public relations at AfriForum, and we'll be hearing directly from him about AfriForum's decision, their reaction to Donald Trump's statement, and the reasoning behind lobbying the US government, and whether they take any responsibility of some of the decisions that Washington has taken thus far that will directly be affecting the poorest of the poor here in South Africa. Ernest, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Really appreciate your time.
Good morning, Salala.
I think let's kickstart with I think what many have been asking as a question. AfriForum operates within South Africa's constitutional democracy. And given that expropriation without compensation itself was passed through a democratic process, why resort to foreign lobbying instead of continuing, legal challenges and political advocacy within the country itself? The avenues are there. They've always been there. And I'm pretty sure AfriForum does know about them.
Right, because for this bill didn't fall out of the sky yesterday. This has been a long process. It's been tabled for more than a decade now. The real serious discussion around it, well, the process started around 2020, so for about 5 years now. And within that time frame, AfriForum has taken part in all the public comments and public written submission opportunities. We've been engaging with the government. We've invited the government for conversation to figure this out, to say that this is a serious issue. We take the threat of expropriation without compensation very seriously, and we want to talk about it because this is something that we cannot, from AfriForum side, just accept. And what did we get? We got a cold shoulder from the government. We got the door slammed in our face for years, and we just got ignored. And then this bill got signed into an act that enables expropriation without compensation, and the president just pushed it through. His own GNU partners are taking him to court for this reckless action. So, I mean, this is not some united action by the GNU. I mean, the GNU seems fractured over it. And AfriForum sees expropriation without compensation as a serious threat. Now, what do you do when you try to use all the internal avenues that are at your disposal to engage the government to try and solve this internally in South Africa, and the door gets slammed arrogantly in your face? What do? Do you sit back and just give up? or do you then talk to people on the outside that will actually listen to you? And that's what we did. What AfriForum did was, we've built up a network of contacts over right across the world, and when the Expropriation Act was signed and pushed through by the ANC, we contacted those contacts overseas and told them this is what the bill entails, these are the risks contained within it, and we gave them the actual quotes from the ANC saying that their intention with this bill is expropriation without compensation. I mean, in the words of Paul Mashatile, in the words of Cyril Ramaphosa, in the words of Ronald Lamola, all three of them admit in the past 3 years, the intention of this bill is to enable expropriation without compensation. And we just told that to the world. And we hold up a mirror to the ANC. And now they are facing the consequences for their extremist policies.
But one would argue that it's not necessarily the ANC that will face the consequences. It will be the poorest of the poor, the South Africans that will be enduring, the brunt of those sanctions. But again, the question would be, the US itself has laws that allow the state to expropriate property for public use. How do you then justify lobbying an American leader when the same or similar principle exists in their own legal system?
Well, that's a bit of a lie by omission, because that principle in America and in any democracy, any functioning democracy, says that expropriation may happen if adequate compensation is paid. That's a crucial detail. You can't ignore that detail. AfriForum is not against expropriation of property. AfriForum is against expropriation without compensation. AfriForum supports expropriation with fair and adequate compensation. But that's not what the threat is within this bill. The threat within this bill is expropriation without compensation. And that is not something you find in any democracy anywhere in the world. It's a human rights violation.
Ernest, there are many South Africans, including those that, are opposed to the Expropriation Act, who see your actions, who view your actions as inviting foreign interference in domestic affairs. How do you respond to such accusations that AfriForum is almost undermining South Africa's sovereignty?
The ANC is undermining South Africa's sovereignty by inviting the world to criticize it and to impose these types of retaliatory policies. The AfriForum didn't pass a law that threatens private property rights in South Africa. AfriForum didn't push through these radical policies. AfriForum didn't say South Africa needs expropriation without compensation. That's the ANC. And when you make a massive mistake, the first thing you do is look for a scapegoat. And that's what the ANC is doing. They're trying to scapegoat AfriForum for their own mistake, for their own chickens coming home to roost, for their radical and extremist policies. When it comes to particularly what AfriForum did, we just showed the world exactly what the ANC says, what the ANC intends to do with this bill. And that's what's happening now in South Africa, is that we're getting that type of South Africa is getting the chickens coming home to roost for what the ANC has been getting away with for many decades, and that is pushing through of extremist policies. And as I said, we put on the table the option for years, I would almost say decades, the option for internally solving this problem. And the ANC ignored it. They slammed the door in our face. And now that the world is taking notice, now everyone wants to keep this internal to South Africa. Now everyone wants to say, let's come to the table, let's sort it out in South Africa. Well, that opportunity was there for years, and it was just ignored until the consequences now are on the doorstep of the ANC. Now they want to sort this out internally. Unfortunately, that's their fault. They had the opportunity. They had a myriad of opportunities, and they squandered them all out of their own hubris, out of their own arrogance, out of their own extremist agenda. And now, unfortunately, they are bringing their extremist agenda is harming South Africa and is holding a lot of real harm for South Africa. That's why AfriForum asks, when we every time for years, we have the receipts. You can go check out all of our communication over the years in regards to our international campaigns. Or over the years, our message has always been, do not punish the citizens of South Africa. They're already punished by the government's extremist policies and corruption and mismanagement. Punish the politicians that push through these radical policies. And it was our message in 2010, it's our message in 2015, and it's our message in 2025. And that's the long and short of it. How the rest of the world reacts to the ANC's extremist policies, AfriForum can only can only push for the focus on corrupt politicians and on extremist politicians. But at the end of the day, what the United States and other countries decide to do, especially now in this context, the United States, that's going to be up to their discretion. But AfriForum, the message from AfriForum is loud and clear: punish the politicians, not the citizens of this country. But the blame for whatever happens, whatever comes out of this whole process, lies squarely at the feet of the ANC, who have absolutely overplayed their hand.
I want to stick on that theme where AfriForum has urged Washington to sanction ANC leaders instead of South Africans in literal terms. What does that look like? And do you think it will give the outcome that you guys have hoped for? I mean, ANC officials are fairly comfortable in South Africa. Traveling to US wouldn't be a priority to many. They're okay. They're comfortable. What sanctions are you proposing?
Actually, no. If I look at the lifestyles of the ANC, and particularly their political antics, they are very dependent on their status as world politicians, global citizens. And the type of sanctions, the most simple example would be not to be invited to any high-profile events and high-profile events where the United States is concerned. The United States needs to send a message to South African politicians. If you push through policies that threaten the constitutional right to private property of your citizens, you are not welcome at our events. You are not welcome at our get-togethers. And then also put sanctions on these individual politicians that they can't buy all those luxury goods that they love so much. You can't tell me they don't live in a swimming pool of luxury and privilege. And a lot of that coming from products directly imported from the United States. Cut off the access to those luxury goods, and the list goes on. Make the lives difficult of the politicians, the extremists, and not the citizens of this country. And that's I think it's actually, in regards to AfriForum, could easily have just said, just punish South Africa, we don't care. But we care about South Africa. We don't want to see the citizens around us suffer. We don't want to see South Africa be punished for the corrupt and extremist actions of a small few within government. That's why our message is so crystal clear to the people that we're talking to abroad.
I want us to take a quick break, but then when we come back, I want to touch a bit on that widely publicized statement that Trump made about, the ANC treating certain classes of citizens differently, and some of the almost inflammatory statements that is made, that a lot of South Africans, white South Africans even, are disagreeing with. I want to touch a bit on that if AfriForum does echo that statement that Donald Trump made, but we'll touch on that a bit after the short break.
Sure.
Day by day. This is Salam Media.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, yet many children go to school hungry because of poverty. Penny Appeal South Africa's Breakfast Club aims to get a warm, hearty meal to underprivileged children so they can spend their day prospering in their schoolwork. Help feed a needy learner for only 5 Rand a day or 150 Rand a month. Or visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can donate. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, buckies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Abu Huraira narrated that he heard the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, "In black seed there is a healing for every disease except death." This Ramadan, experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the Tib Black Seed range. Black seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the Tib Black Seed range into your Ramadan routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust Tib Health Sciences for quality black seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
Send food and send kindness to those who have lost their homes and have been plunged into poverty. For those who are a meal away from starvation, a food parcel means an entire family can eat this Ramadan. That's the power of food. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salilo Makwidi, and I'm still joined by Ernst van Zyl. He's the head of public relations at AfriForum. Ernst, thank you so much for staying with us. Before we went on that break, I wanted to touch on that widely publicized statement by Donald Trump that ultimately led to us being here. This is what Donald Trump said, and I know you probably know the statement all too well. South Africa is confiscating land and treating certain classes of people very badly. He continued to describe the situation as a massive human rights violation at a minimum. Do you echo those statements? Does AfriForum agree and fully endorse those statements made by Donald Trump?
Well, I don't know where the information got to Donald Trump that there are land confiscations by the government currently happening due to the Expropriation Act. AfriForum's information has always been solid in regards to the Expropriation Act being a serious threat to private property rights in South Africa. The Expropriation Act cannot be used at the moment for expropriation because it hasn't been proclaimed yet. It can't be enacted yet. So
have you made efforts to correct that statement, because it's misinformation at its best. The same way you went about lobbying and making sure that the United States government and Donald Trump does know about some of your concerns. Have you made effort to correct what I would think you'd also consider as misinformation, the facts not definitely being what they are on the ground to what he probably says they are?
Yes, we are providing the Trump administration with and individuals associated with it with detailed information in regards to what the state of affairs is regarding the Expropriation Act, what the risks within it contain, and what the future holds. I mean, that's what we did when it was signed, and that's what we continue to do as the story develops. That's all we can do is provide.
I'm talking specifically on the statement. Did you make efforts to correct it? And when was the last time you engaged with those that you were talking to from Washington?
Constantly, we're sending them the information that they need. They are investigating the matter, and AfriForum is playing our part to ensure that they have all the right information to be able to do that effectively.
And you made efforts, but why was it not corrected? Why they didn't come out with a statement? You're their lobby partner in this.
Because AfriForum is not sitting next to Donald Trump in his office. We don't have control over Donald Trump. We can't just send him a WhatsApp message and say, tweet this, tweet this, tweet this. The man is busy with like 20 things at the same time. South Africa is one of those things, but it's not something where he's just going to call up Kali Krill and say, can I make another tweet for you? What else can I say? What do you want me to say? That's not how this works. That's a disingenuous way of framing it.
Mm. There's still a lot of legal avenues within South Africa to challenge the Expropriation Act. Do you feel you've exhausted all of them before involving foreign actors into this?
Well, we have a multifaceted approach that we announced, the 3-point plan that we announced earlier this year, or when this act was signed. The first step was to write a letter to Minister Dean McPherson, urging him to refuse to co-sign the bill, which would put it into limbo. We still have to see what his decision will be there. We are keeping a close eye there, but I'm sure the minister will do the right thing and stick to his conscience and not be a co-signatory for the bill. A spelling disaster for this act and for the GNU to a large extent, but that's their problem, not AfriForum's. When it comes to particularly the second step, that would be testing the Expropriation Act's constitutionality in court. Their AfriForum is already preparing our legal papers, but as you know, in South Africa, the legal process takes a long time. It might even take years, because if this is not resolved in the High Court, it will go to the Appeals Court. If it's not resolved in the Appeals Court, it will go to the Constitutional Court. This could take years, and within those years, the government, as we've seen, they've established that they just push through. They don't really care about all these different processes that are there to get inputs from different role players in society. That's just the arrogance of the ANC at play there. So we can't trust them to put this act on ice until all of those processes have been concluded. Therefore, we use a multi-pronged approach. The third step in that 3-pronged approach is to inform the international community about what's going on in South Africa, what the bill entails, how this act threatens private property rights in South Africa, and show them what the ANC have said in their own words over the past few years, what they intend to do using this bill. I mean, I have it here in front of me. Cyril Ramaphosa said in 2022, we will pass the expropriation bill, which is currently at the NCOP, and will grant the state the authority to expropriate land for public purposes or interests, and establish that null or 0 rand compensation will be deemed just and equitable in accordance with the law. 0 rand, that's null. That is no compensation. Here's the Paul Mashatile, Deputy President, 2024, last year. On the wording without compensation and null compensation, Mashatile said the intention was the same and the difference was wording. In his words, it may well be that you have issues with the wording thereof, but the intention is to achieve exactly that we need to expropriate land without compensation. That's the Deputy President and the President of South Africa saying the intention of this Expropriation Act, then a bill, was and is to achieve expropriation without compensation. That it's in black and white there, and people are trying to gaslight others by saying that's not the intention. This is not about expropriation without compensation. It's not going to enable it. Well, why do the president and the deputy president and Ronald Lamola and the rest of the top brass in the ANC, why do they use the past 5 years telling everyone, yes, we do intend to use this bill to expropriate land without property? That is state confiscation of land. That's theft. And what all the AfriForum did was tell the international community, guys, our government is threatening to expropriate property without compensation, Zimbabwe style. You need to have a look at this. I think that's incredibly reasonable.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time. But before I let you go, what would AfriForum say to ordinary South Africans, both black and white, who feel that this move is deepening racial and political divisions in the country? I mean, some have even went as far as coining it as treasonous.
Well, unfortunately, I'd have to tell them that they need to cut back on their mainstream media propaganda intake, as they're being taken for a ride by politicians trying to stoke up hysteria. There's no basis for any of that. So I would unfortunately have to have a very straight conversation with them and ask them if that's truly what they believe. They have to give me proof that AfriForum is lying. What are these lies? Point out these lies and give me proof that AfriForum are spreading these lies. Otherwise, you're just parroting a propaganda narrative and serving the ANC. Unfortunately, I mean that's the tough conversation you'd have to have with that type of person.
All right, going to leave on that note. Head of Public Relations at AfriForum, Ernst van Zyl, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time.
Goodbye. Have a nice day.
There you go. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues after this.